Good morning, Mr. Jolivette. How are you?
I'm doing all right, sir.
Good, nice seeing you again.
Did you?
Mr. Jolivette, my name is Alvin Roche. To my left is Mrs. Bonnie Jackson, and to my right is Mr. Pete Freeman. We'll compose the panel that will hear your parole hearing this morning. Would you please introduce yourself, give your full name, and your Department of Corrections ID?
My name is Moses Jolivette. DOC number is 94357.
Thank you, Mr. Jolivette.
Okay.
I think this is maybe your second or third hearing.
Yes, sir.
You pretty much know the procedure, but I'm going to briefly explain it to the spectators. I will enter some information into the record, verify the information. Once the information's in the record, we'll give Warden Ambo a chance to make remarks or comments. Then we have visitors in person and on Zoom. In support, we have Sophia McDonald, your attorney. Would you please introduce yourself for the record?
Good morning. My name is Sophia McDonald. I am a staff attorney at the Equal Justice Initiative. Thank you for this opportunity this morning.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Ms. Attorney McDonald, would you like to make an opening statement, or would you like to make your statement at the end of the hearing?
I'll make it at the end of the hearing. Thank you, sir.
We also have Mr. Andrew Huntley from the Louisiana Parole Project, Ms. Catherine Moyer with Ms. McDonald, and we have Linda Hahn, your sister. Is that correct?
Linda Cormier.
Cormier. Okay. All I have is C-O-N, but it's Cormier.
Hi.
All right. And in opposition, we have Ms. Jacqueline Champagne and Ms. Deanna Carpenter. And Ms. Champagne would like to make a statement at the appropriate time. Is that correct?
Yes.
So after all the statements, before we vote, we'll give you an opportunity to make a brief statement on why we should release you, and then we'll hear from Ms. McDonald. Do you understand the process?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Moses Jolivette, Mr. Jolivette, you are what? 59?
Yes, sir.
And your first felony offender. This is a rehearing, and your offense is aggravated rape. And you were sentenced on April 14th, 1981, and received 600 plus days of jail credit, and you were sentenced to life. Your parole date was September 4th, 2008. You don't earn good time, and your full term sentence is life. Is that information correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is a rehearing. Your last hearing was on February 13th, 2020, and you were denied by a vote of 2-1. You had 2 grants and 1 denied. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I sat on that panel, and I voted to grant your release because you had completed all phases of your sex offender treatment, and you had outstanding remarks by Warden Bernard. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
So I need to know And just as a side to that, I made a requirement, if you were granted, that you complete Thinking for a Change. Even though you were denied, you enrolled in that class a year later and you completed that class. As I asked you to do.
Yes, sir.
Now, have you completed any other classes since your last hearing in February of 2020?
No, sir.
That's the only class that you completed other than with no other classes in the last 2 or 3 years.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you seek to enroll in more classes in the last 2 or 3 years?
Most of the classes that is offered to prisoners, I had completed the programs multiple times, and I couldn't. They wouldn't let me back in the classes because.
Okay, I fully understand. I just want to put it on the record. You had taken the bulk of the good time classes already before your 2020 hearing, and Thinking for Change was left out, so I suggested that you take it, and you did. Any other organizational or educational advancements since your 2020 hearing?
Can you repeat that question, sir? I didn't understand.
Have you done any activities with organizations, educational advancement, or any community service since your 2020 hearing?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about it.
Currently, I work for Concept Club. Is like a camp club, you know, where we have like a president, a vice president, secretary stuff, and I do like work in the visitor shed. I'm like a host. I greet people in and make sure their orders come out right for their food, and I even write the orders out. And I do a lot
and you do help the other inmates that are not able to help themselves, and you
Yes, sir.
even cook staff when they bring the food.
Right. I help them. So I could, some people, families don't have enough money to pay for the food. A lot of times, that's part of my job. When I don't see nobody eat, they've been in the shed a while, I ask them, did they have money to eat, or can we help them? Do they want something to eat? And really, it's a community thing. It's for everybody.
I know exactly what the Concept Club does.
So,
And it's a great service to the facility, the offenders, and the offenders' families. Any other community service?
Currently, I'm a trustee. I work. I'm a file clerk, and I do a lot. I help the trustees too. I'm a trustee, and I help like trustees. They try to drip off one way or the other. I try to let them know, man, you have to get yourself straight. You really do. Or they might say the wrong thing to a personnel like a free person or something. And I'll tell them, look, you're wrong. Don't do that. And a lot of guys respect me because I've been here a while, and I'm just going to tell them straight out, what they should do.
So what you're trying to say, Mr. Jolivette, that you unofficially act as a mentor to the younger offenders and tell them exactly what's right and what's wrong, what they can and cannot do.
Yes, sir.
How's your disciplinary conduct since the last hearing?
I haven't received no disciplinary conduct. My last disciplinary writer was like in 2001, and for not failing to make my bed. I didn't make my bed that day. Well, I hadn't had a disciplinary report since.
Okay, let me summarize it. Your last Class B write-up was in January 1991, over 32 years ago. You got a Class A write-up in, I think, 2000, and that was 23 years ago. So you had a write-up in 23 years and only one minor infraction in the last 32 years. Ward Ambo, do you have any comments, concerns, observations?
I have no concerns. I think Mr. Jolivette will go back into the community and be a productive citizen. Like he said, he's a trustee. He mentored to the younger offenders, and he also helped with the Concept Club. And he hasn't had a report in 23 years. The last one was a Rule 4. He completed his GED and his Tiger assessment is low.
Thank you, Warden. Mr. Jolivette? Mr. Jolivette?
Yes, sir.
I want to inform you that you have a supporter at headquarters, Ms. Amy Richard, and she's here in support of you. Ms. Richard, would you like to speak?
I would love to.
If we have a third spot, I'll allow you to make a brief statement.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Roche,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to confirm that we have myself, Mr. Hunley, and Ms. Cormier here will be speaking. So I just want to make sure those spots are saved.
That makes it 3 because the attorney. Right, that's what I'm about to tell. That makes it 3 because his attorney is exempt from that number. So we'll allow Ms. Richard and the other 2 speakers act Louisiana State Attorney to make a brief statement.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Jolivette, let's talk about your transition plan. I know what your initial transition plan is, but I want to know what your transition plan is after you leave the parole project.
Well, I'm gonna have to, before I leave the parole project, I want to make sure that I have a place to go, family support wherever I go, and that I can get a job. It's already there. I just don't want to leave without having them things done because of my medical condition. And I want to support myself, but I have support from my family and friends. I want to be a carpenter. That's what I did most of my life anyway. You know, as long as my health hold up, I think I could
Now,
do it
Mr.
for a while.
Jolivette, I don't know how good your memory is, but do you remember when I delivered my decision back in 2020? I said that you could never have a residency in Southwest Louisiana. At that time, you had a residency plan in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I restricted your travel to Southwest Louisiana, and especially Lafayette, Louisiana. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Now, when considering your permanent residency plan, Southwest Louisiana is not going to be an option. All the areas surrounding Lafayette Parish will be restricted if and when you ever release, if I have anything to do with it. So that's why I want to know what your permanent residency plan will be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What happened to the residency plan in New Orleans, Louisiana?
Well, you approved it, like, you know, I talked to Mr. Huntley and the parole project. My attorney was in contact with him, and I know him you know, he was up here a while and, he accepted me, you know, they talked and he said, I'll take you in right now, you know, whenever the bed get open, if you make parole, I'll take you in, I'll help you out.
Okay, so,
That's, no,
Mr. Huntley will explain when he's given a chance to make a presentation. But, if and when you are released, if I have anything to do with it, you will not ever be able to create a residency, and travel will be restricted to Southwest Louisiana. Mr. Freeman?
Yes, sir. You know, Mr. Roche has heard you before. I haven't heard before. This is the first time you've been in front of me. Tell me what was going on back then and what caused you to commit this horrific crime?
not, I don't want to make an excuse that the drug addiction or my age and all that had maybe do the crime or committed the crime. I take full responsibility for what I did. It was wrong. And I wish I would have knew the things I know now, you know, back then. I didn't realize that my crime didn't just affect the victim, but her family and the community. And by the way, she said, she mentioned last hearing we had that she had 2 daughters. And I didn't apologize to them either. So right now, I apologize to the victim and her daughters for what I did. And like I said, I take full responsibility. And I needed to know for myself where I was at that time as a person. And I know I did drugs and all that, but like I say, that shouldn't have nothing to do with it. It's still my fault. I take full responsibility for the pain I caused the victim. And it's just honesty. I'm just being honest.
Good. We won't. Let me ask you this. Was there any planning in this? Did you do some peeping time and set all this up? I saw that mentioned in the reference. Be honest.
I'm honest, sir. I never approached her like that. I never done no people time or nothing like that. You know, that's something I know I would never do that anyway. But that day when the crime happened, I just was looking for a ride. Really, I wanted to carjack, and again, I'm not making this no less of what I did. That was my goal, and it's one bad decision after another. The car got bogged down, and I made a terrible decision. You know, and the victim know and I know. You know, she told me, "Don't do this." I won't tell nobody, but don't do this. And in my mind, I couldn't really process what I was doing because of my age, and don't take that as wrong, and because of the drugs. Now, I'm not making sugarcoating my age. I should have not done it. It doesn't matter, age or not. It's wrong. And I had to know for myself why I took these classes and victim awareness. It really hit home when I started getting these programs. And I realized that, man, you know, you didn't just offend this woman, but you altered her life. You know, you changed everything in her life because of the crime I committed. And like you said, what was I thinking? That's the point. I would think. Be honest with you. You want me to be honest with you? I'm gonna be honest.
How old were you?
Yes, sir.
How old were you?
17.
Okay, and this was just random. You didn't pick this victim out. You just were looking for a ride and you were going to carjack.
Yes, sir. No, I didn't.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Ms. Jackson?
No questions.
At this time, we're going to hear from, let's hear from Mr. Andrew Huntley of the Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Huntley?
Thank you. Andrew Hundley with Louisiana Parole Project, appearing on behalf of the board today to confirm that Moses Jolivette is a client of ours. And if he is to be released, he will take part in our reentry program. But larger than that, to answer the question that came up earlier as it relates to residency, we're very well aware of the concerns from his previous hearings from 2013 and 2020 as it relates to his residency. And we agree with the board's sentiment. We believe that a residence plan for Mr. Jolivette should keep him away from Southwest Louisiana. What we told Mr. Jolivette and what we suggest to the board today is that he be restricted from ever traveling west of the Mississippi River, and that he will be residing with us long-term in East Baton Rouge Parish. Due to our capacity with transitional housing and post-transitional housing, we commit to provide long-term housing to Mr. Jolivette, whether that's from being in a transitional house for a period of time and eventually in his own apartment that's owned by our organization. We commit that to the parole board. Because of his age and his current health issues, we are hoping that he will, have the opportunities to have a job, but we're also realistic and recognizing in recent history, Mr. Jolivette's health has not been as good as it has been in previous years. Now, what I would like to mention why we have agreed to assist Mr. Jolivette. One, because of the amount of time he has served, now close to 42 years of incarceration, an outstanding disciplinary record, but also an outstanding work record, and which is also complemented by comments from his work supervisors and security supervisors at the prison. It's our opinion that he's reached the sweet spot as far as the amount of time served, and having accomplished all that he can accomplish, in the prison. Finally, I'd like to note to the board that Mr. Jolivette is a juvenile lifer. As this board is aware, there is no other group that has had a better success rate after given second chances in recent years in Louisiana. And I say success rate not just by looking at recidivism rate. Yes, juvenile lifers seem to have the lowest recidivism rate, but also they're individuals who are more likely to get a job, to keep a job, and to volunteer and give back into their new communities. In summary, just want to commit to the board that Mr. Jolivette would have the total support of Louisiana Parole Project, including long-term housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huntley. Let's hear from Ms. Catherine Boyer. Ms. Boyer? No, I'm sorry. Catherine Matoir. I'm sorry.
Ms. Matoyer won't be speaking on Mr. Jolivette's behalf today.
Okay, so let's hear from Ms. Cormier.
I'm his sister, Linda Cormier, and I just want to say that I love my brother, the family supports him, and by him, if he can go to Baton Rouge, it's like I'm willing to support him and whatever he needs, as well as for visitation, to go see him over there.
Thank you, Ms. Cormier. And my mistake, Catherine Boyer is working with Attorney McDonald.
That's correct.
Ms. Richard,
Yes, sir.
would you go up to the podium and give us your brief statement?
This time?
Yes.
I just would like to say that
Give us your full name and your relationship.
my name is Amy Richard. I am a friend of his. I've gotten to know him from visiting my loved one at Angola over the past couple of years. He is a trustee. I just wanted to speak honestly on his behalf that I see him as a person with good character. I didn't even bother to look at what his charge was because I wanted to come here without any bias or discrimination and just testify on his character. He is kind, looks out for other people, he's always gracious. I don't see any evil in his heart from the couple of years that I've gotten to know him, and I do visit and overlook quite often. So I just wanted to simply say that according to what his character is at this time that I.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, attendance.
Thank you.
Good. At this time, we'd like to hear, from Ms. Jacqueline Champagne. Ms. Champagne, would you come up to the podium, give your name and your relationship with this case?
My name is Jackie Champagne. I'm the victim.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna keep coming to these hearings every time he applies. The rape was the culmination of about 2 months worth of torture, basically. Mr. Jolivette had been spying on me. He had been peeping Tom into my house. 2 weeks before he raped me, abducted me and raped me after he took me from my house. He stole my jewelry box, which the only reason I know that he did that was because my graduation ring was in his pocket when he was picked up by the police. A lot of that jewelry that was in there was not mine. It was from my grandmother. It was my husband's grandmother. And he tore a lot of things away from me, not just my sanity and my really kind of goodwill toward people. But he wants to get out, he can get out, just don't come back to me. I don't ever want to hear his name, but every time he's gonna apply, I will be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Champagne. Mr. Jolivette, would you like to give us a brief statement? And then we'll turn it over to your attorney.
Yes, sir. I just want to apologize again to Ms. Champagne. You know, it really in life, you don't get second chances a lot. And I realize, you know, that what I've done, I can't undo. I can't undo. All I can do is try my best to be a better person. And maybe, you know, she could see that I'm sincere. What I did was wrong, but I worked hard to try to be a better man. And I'm not changing that for nothing. As far as the time I served my time thinking every day about my mistake, about how I hurt another person. And like she said, you know, I really don't want to go back to life that either way. And if she don't want me back there, why should I go? Which, it's a good thing. You know, I don't want to make that no more harder than her than already has been. I'm not a kid no more, and I realize that I'm responsible for me, and I can do better. I want to do better. And I just want to know that that's my whole life. Whatever I have left because of my liver and the problem I'm having right now, I'm gonna spend that doing good. No matter how long I have on this earth. I just want to let her know that I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Jolivette. Attorney McDonald?
Yes, thank you. Sophia McDonald on behalf of Mr. Moses Jolivette. First, I just want to clarify that no one disputes the seriousness and the gravity of Mr. Jolivette's conduct in 1981 when he was a teenager. In 1981, at age 17, Mr. Jolivette committed a serious offense against an innocent victim. And in doing so, he harmed not only the victim, but her family and the community. And he takes full responsibility for his actions. Today, at age 59, Mr. Jolivette is a completely different person. He has matured into a deeply remorseful man that has dedicated his adult life to atoning for his past and rehabilitating himself. His demonstrated rehabilitation makes him exactly the type of person the United States Supreme Court had in mind when it required that juvenile non-homicide offenders be given a meaningful opportunity to obtain release. 42 years after arriving at Angola, Mr. Jolivette has one of the most exceptional prison records of any juvenile sentenced to life without parole at Angola. He has Class B trustee status, as he's discussed, which he's had for over 20 years. He's taken full advantage of the programming opportunities at the prison and has worked steadfastly for 13 years as a file clerk alongside free world female employees without incident. Since 1991, as the board found, he has had only one write-up, which was a reprimand in 2000 for not making his bed. Even years before Granby, Florida came down, years before he ever had a hope of going before the parole board, Mr. Jolivette obtained his GED. He was baptized. He completed all 4 phases of risk management and anger management. He has completed victim awareness multiple times, substance abuse treatment multiple times. And despite the pandemic's limitations on programming opportunities, and despite multiple hospitalizations at a free world hospital in New Orleans, Mr. Jolivette followed this board's directive at the second parole hearing and completed Thinking for a Change in July 2021 so that he could better understand the harm that he had inflicted on the victim. In fact, because of his remarkable institutional record, when Mr. Jolivette was first resentenced in 2011, the Lafayette Parish Court initially resentenced him to the legal equivalent of time served, meaning he was due to be immediately released. Less than a month later, the Louisiana Supreme Court found in State v. Schaefer that the only appropriate sentence for a juvenile impacted by Graham was life with immediate parole eligibility. So Mr. Jolivette went up for the first time in 2013 and for a second time in 2020. We've discussed this, but Mr. Jolivette's home plan is with the Louisiana Parole Project, where he'll receive wraparound comprehensive reentry services that Mr. Hunley has already described. And of course, Mr. Jolivette will continue to receive support from the Equal Justice Initiative, and of course, to respect the wishes and the healing of the victim. He has agreed that he will not return to Lafayette Parish. And I know that Mr. Hunley talked more about the geographic location of his housing plan. I also want to add that since his second parole hearing, Mr. Jolivette's health has deteriorated significantly. He suffers from end-stage liver disease, cirrhosis of the liver, which is an incurable terminal condition that has worsened in recent years. Since the start of the pandemic, Mr. Jolivette has experienced a number of complications from his liver disease that are detailed in his parole packet, which have required multiple emergency hospitalizations. Mr. Jolivette is not expected to live long. The average survival for people with his condition without a transplant is less than 2 years. We have consulted with practicing physicians, and the likelihood of Mr. Jolivette being able to get a liver transplant either inside or outside of prison is very low. Due to the progressive nature of his condition, even with the best medical care, Mr. Jolivette will have more frequent, more serious complications, which will lead to more hospitalizations. Mr. Jolivette's prognosis means that this is likely the last time he will be able to go before the board. So to conclude, Mr. Jolivette has caused immense harm to the victim 42 years ago. But he has committed his life a better man. And at age 59, he is a different person. Despite numerous challenges and setbacks during his incarceration, like the loss of his brother in 2010 and 2 parole denials, he has maintained one of the most remarkable institutional records. And the record really speaks volumes about his maturity, his rehabilitation, and his remorse. He's come before the board twice before, and this is really a unique case because of his age at the time of his offense, his institutional record, and his health. So we ask the board respectfully to consider all of these factors and grant parole today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Before we go any further, Warden Amber. Warden Amber,
Yes, sir.
your reception has been going in and out all morning. So evidently you having Wi-Fi problems?
Yeah, it keeps saying that the internet's unstable.
Yeah, well, it's going in and out.
I can get IT in here, that's the only thing I can do. Try to.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Your case was assigned to me, Mr. Jolivette. And I'm going to begin by saying that you were 17 at the time and you received a life sentence, so you are considered a juvenile lifer. And one thing I must look for is maturity and rehabilitation. And I saw that in 2020. That is the reason why I voted to grant you with the restrictions I did. I'm going to vote the same way this time. I'm going to grant you release based upon positive remarks by Warden Amber, length of incarceration, in your age, and medical conditions. After release, you are to have a curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. You need to be out after 8 o'clock for a legitimate reason. You need to notify your parole officer or have the Louisiana Parole Project notify your officer. Second condition, I'm granting based on a commitment by the Louisiana Parole Project for a long-term residency plan. And if you're able, I'm almost sure Mr. Huntley will find some type of employment so you can be self-sustaining. I want you to register properly as a sex offender for the duration of your supervision. That is the quickest way to get revoked, and you'll end up back in prison. You'll be incarcerated because you didn't abide by the sex offender registration rules, which includes notification of your neighborhood. And Mr. Huntley will help you with that. He has staff that will help you with that. But that must be done immediately after you release. The last restriction is that you are restricted from ever having a residency plan or travel within the confines of Southwest Louisiana. I'm not going to go as far as Mr. Huntley, west of the Mississippi. West Baton Rouge Parish would be okay. And you are from Lafayette, so you know what I mean when I say Southwest Louisiana. Acadia, Lafayette, St. Martin, and all St. Landry, and all parishes surrounding the parishes I just mentioned. So you know what Southwest Louisiana. Do
Yes,
you
sir.
understand the conditions,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jackson?
All right, my vote is the same for the same reason, and same conditions.
Mr. Freeman,
Okay, first off, I'm gonna point out to you when I was asking you those questions, I knew that graduation ring was found on you. And that's concerning to me, that you didn't fess up, that you had gone in her house before and taken that graduation ring. So you were familiar with what was going on in that residence. But you have served 40-something years, you have a good prison record, but I'm gonna increase the special conditions in that you are to wear electronic monitoring throughout your supervision. Probation and parole has them. They will put you on it. If that electronic monitoring shows you in the areas that Mr. Roger restricted, I promise you, if I'm on the board, you will get your votes. So my vote is to grant also.
thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Jolivette, you have received 3 votes. Grant your request for early release, and your conditions are so important, I'm just gonna briefly review them. You have a curfew from 8 at night to 6 in the morning. You are to be a long-term resident of the Louisiana Parole Project. I want you to register each and every year as a sex offender and follow all the rules and regulations of the contract that you will be required to sign. Your travel to Southwest Louisiana is restricted, and that you wear electronic monitor for the duration of your supervision. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, sir.
Have a good day, Mr. Jolivette.
Same you. Thank you.